It seems like with every passing day we hear more rumors and leaks about the upcoming Sony PlayStation 5. Recently, a report came out saying that Sony was struggling with the price of the console, and it might be higher than we expect. That's not good. There's also been a microtransaction patent leak that makes it seem like Sony's going to be really pushing these in-game transactions in games for the PS5. That's also not good. We'll get into the pricing and patent leaks for the PS5 and also touch on the design leak that's been making the rounds online as of late. But just a quick PSA, don't believe everything you read online. Until Sony unveils the PS5, it's all just speculation. The first two questions that come to mind when a new console is announced are, when does it come out and how much does it cost? Well, we know the PS5 will be released during the 2020 holiday season, with November 20th, 2020 rumored to be the exact date. As for how much it costs, that's a whole other story entirely. According to Bloomberg, Sony is really struggling with the price of the PS5, and we stress the word really. It's estimated that the console could cost Sony $450 per unit, which is a huge increase when compared to the PS4's $380. Think about it. If it costs Sony $450 per PS5 and they make at least 1 million consoles for launch day, that's $70 million more than they had to spend when they released the PS4 in 2013. $70 million is a whole lot of money, even for a company worth billions like Sony. So if you thought the PS5 was going to be $400 like the PS4 was at launch, you could keep dreaming, because this console will most likely sell for at least $470. But we wouldn't be surprised if Sony bumps it up to $500, because round numbers look nice, don't they? Hopefully, Sony just loses their minds and keeps it at $470 for some reason. That being said, $470 is a lot to spend on a console, and a whole lot of cash-strapped gamers will be hesitant to pull the trigger on the PS5, and rightfully so. So what exactly is causing the PS5 to be so darn expensive to make? A few things, really. For starters, it's rumored that Sony is having trouble securing enough DRAM and flash memory to mass-produce the console. If true, that's a pretty big issue, because you can't start selling consoles without all the right internals. Nobody wants an empty box. Also, supposedly, the PS5 is using a much more expensive cooling system than we've seen in any other system, in order to prevent said internals from boiling during intense gameplay sessions. All of this is what's driving the price of the PS5 higher, and there are a lot of repercussions for selling the console for anywhere between $470 to $500. Like we mentioned earlier, if your budget is $400, the PS5 is probably not going to be the console for you, at least not at launch. The Xbox Series X is rumored to be around $400, so if Sony does have no choice but to sell the PS5 for around $500, that would give Microsoft the ability to undercut the PS5 and cut into their competition's sales. Would you pay $400 for an Xbox Series X or $500 for a PS5? We feel like a lot of gamers might choose the Xbox, simply because it's cheaper. But that wouldn't be the end of the world for Sony. At the end of the day, the PS4 outsold the Xbox One 108.9 million to 46.9 million, so with such an importance being placed on backwards compatibility this generation, players are most likely still going to flock towards the PS5, despite the higher price tag. If you already spent thousands of dollars on PS4 games, you're likely not just going to jump ship to the Xbox Series X. You're probably going to want to stay in Sony's ecosystem and get yourself a PS5, so all your older games still have a home. This is a tactic a lot of tech companies use. You know, we're talking about those companies that have so many different products that run seamlessly together that you'll obviously never want to use a different product. We're talking about Apple, with your fancy Mac and iPhone compatibility. But that's really the only positive for Sony in this whole price mess. If their console does end up selling for around $100 more than the Xbox Series X, then Sony's going to have to rely on the success of their previous console to help them dominate with the PS5, and that's not a recipe for success. Microsoft tried to do the same thing with the Xbox One when they piggybacked off the success of the Xbox 360, and yeah, we all know what happened there. We'll never forget the Xbox One launch, that's for sure. While gamers who have been a part of Sony's ecosystem since the PS5 will probably buy the PS5, new gamers won't have any obligation to do the same. If you don't have any games from the previous generation, then you're most likely just going to settle on the cheaper console, which could very well be the Xbox Series X this generation. If this is the case, then the PS5 will lose new gamers to the Xbox Series X, and that's definitely not what Sony planned for. You want to bring new customers into the fold and not push them away by being $100 more expensive than your competitor. It would be an unmitigated disaster for Sony. Plus, Microsoft is really pushing their Xbox Play Anywhere initiative and are making a lot of their games playable on PC as well as Xbox. See, it's the ecosystem tactic again. If their console's cheaper and their games are capable of being played on both PC and console, then we might be in for one heck of a console war by the end of the year. Oh boy, this is gonna be spicy. Are we forgetting about Nintendo though? Yeah, we definitely are. Lost in this whole price war we've been talking about lately is Nintendo. If the PS5 is going to be a really expensive console, then another competitor might just swoop in and capitalize on the situation. Have you ever gotten third-partied in Fortnite? Well, Nintendo might just do that and wipe the floor with both Sony and Microsoft. There's a rumor that a new Nintendo Switch console is coming out sometime in 2021. If this whole pricing situation truly turns into a mess for Sony, it might be smart for Nintendo to release the Switch Pro, Switch 2, or whatever it's going to be called as quickly as possible. If Nintendo comes up with a souped-up Nintendo Switch that's more powerful than the original and upgraded Switch, then they could not only cut into PS5 sales, but even Xbox Series X sales as well. They'd steal the console spotlight and find continued success in their Nintendo Switch line of consoles. Sounds like a win-win for Nintendo, but it's all just speculation at this point. They haven't even announced a new console, and they said we definitely won't be getting another Switch in 2020. But we could see Nintendo push to get a console out quickly in 2021 if this scenario were to happen. We're not trying to be negative or anything, but we have some more bad news about the PS5, and it has to do with the latest patent leak. This one has to do with microtransactions, every gamer's favorite thing on the planet. Well, a lot of gamers have had enough with microtransactions. It seems like they're only going to get worse if Sony's latest patent sees the light of day on the PS5. Countries are banning loot boxes in video games, but clearly that's not enough to turn companies away from microtransactions. Essentially, Sony wants to offer player-specific in-game solutions in their games, which can involve simple tips and tricks to help you out, as well as microtransactions. So let's say you're struggling at a boss. You could ask the console how to beat it, and the AI will recognize that you're struggling and come up with tips that could help you with prompts like 80% of players like you defeated the boss using Resource X. That sounds all fine and dandy and would be a real good help. The problem? It could also ask you if you want to purchase Resource X, just in case you don't have it, so you could defeat the boss easier. That's not cool, Sony. Please don't prey on gamers who are struggling on a boss so much they're willing to pay real money to defeat it. Now, Sony did say that the system would be player-friendly, but it looks like it would really push microtransactions. And we stress the word really, so wouldn't that not be player-friendly? We understand why companies want more microtransactions. They want more money. But when it's shoved down their gamers' throats, it's not fun either. If Sony could make it very subtle and allow it to be turned off completely, then we won't have a problem with it whatsoever. But if we can't turn it off, then it's going to be like our own personal Navi from The Legend of Zelda constantly yelling, "Hey!" to get our attention with microtransactions. If that's the case, then we could see gamers getting turned off by this to the point where they wouldn't consider the PS5 as their next console. It's not an overreaction. Gamers just don't like microtransactions. Speaking of patent leaks, we recently heard news of Sony filing another patent, but this one's for the design of the PS5 console. We've all seen the dev kits for the PlayStation 5 that Sony sent key developers last year, and saying they're unique is a bit of an understatement. They're completely unlike anything we've ever seen. They're curvy and pretty sweet in our opinion, but they're just dev kits. As we've seen throughout history, the final console very rarely looks like the dev kit. But the fact that Sony went ahead and protected the design by filing a patent so no one could copy it definitely makes us believe that the console could look a lot like the dev kit. And if you believe any of the leaked photos of the PS5, well, you probably shouldn't just yet. But if you do, it won't take you long to realize they look like the dev kits. Usually, video game companies don't file a patent for the dev kit design because they simply don't need to. But Sony did, which means the final product might look a lot like it. We think this design would really make the PlayStation 5 stand out. Let's face it, the Xbox Series X is a big black box. It isn't flashy, it's just simple and looks like a computer tower. If these rumors are true, the PS5 would look radically different from anything we've ever seen, and we're all for it. If they won't win the price war, maybe they could win the style war, and that's worth a point or two in our book. Overall, if all of these rumors and leaks are true, then it's been a surprisingly shaky time for Sony as we inch closer and closer to an official PS5 reveal. It's not crazy to think that the Xbox Series X has a slight lead in the console wars at this juncture, but if gamers are already too deep in the Sony ecosystem, they'll likely stay with the PS5. It's an interesting time for Sony, and only time will tell who comes out on top in the latest console wars. We're not too worried about Sony. They typically do what's best for us gamers. But what do you think about all of this? Is Microsoft finally going to beat Sony this generation, or will the PS5 be just fine? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to The Gamer for more gaming videos. As always, thanks a lot for watching.